This week's interview had to be rescheduled, so we're going to start off talking about our plans for this podcast in 2026. Then, for this week's topic segment, we'll discuss hiring in cybersecurity. And finally, in the enterprise security news, fundings and acquisitions are still going strong in 2026. Santa might be done delivering gifts, but not protecting Macs. ClickFix attacks, weaponized Raspberry Pis, MongoDB incidents were delivered for Christmas to some organizations. Top 10 cyber attacks of 2025. U.S. gets tough on nation-state hackers. I'll believe it when we see it. Brute force attacks on banks and an AI vending machine. All that and more in this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software deployment and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/meter. METER. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive Security, the first cybersecurity company backed by OpenAI. AI has fundamentally reshaped the threat landscape. Today, the greatest risk isn't someone breaking into your systems, it's someone breaking into your trust. Deepfake voices joining your video calls, AI-crafted phishing emails that perfectly mimic your executives, even synthetic job applicants entering through the front door. Adaptive Security is designed to counter these new realities. The company delivers real-time attack simulations that show security teams exactly what modern AI-driven threats look and sound like, and prepares them to respond effectively. Learn more at securityweekly.com/adaptive. Welcome to Enterprise Security Weekly and happy National Winter Skin Day. And yes, this day is brought to you by a pharma company that produces and sells lotion. This is episode 441, recorded on Thursday, January 8th, 2026. I'm your host, Adrian Sanabria, and joining me is the Dean of Data Science, the Knight of Neurodiversity, the Watcher of Data Center Waste, emphasizing that last one there. Jackie, how you doing?
You know, I have checked a few things off on my bingo card already this year that I didn't think were going to be on there, but I'm good.
You're doing more than watching these days on the data center piece of it. Yeah.
There's a great photo of me in the local newspaper today going like this at our mayor, so that's fun.
We will put in, if we find pay-per-view tickets that you can purchase to these fights, we will include it in the show notes. But love that you're getting active in your local community there, Jackie. That's great.
Yeah.
Also joining us, the Baron of Bloodhound, the Pirate King of PowerShell, recently back from vacation, Sean Metcalf. How you doing, Sean?
Hello. Doing good, Adrian. I saw Jackie's face when you said National Winter Skin Day, and it was just this unique combination of perplexed and astonished.
Yeah. Well, I've been door knocking to try to raise awareness for this data center project and having to shake a lot of hands. And some people could definitely use some treatment for their winter skin around here.
I was just checking to see how ashy I was today. It's the legs definitely much worse than the arms, but the arms get pretty dry as well. Also joining us, the connoisseur of cloud security, our single origin co-host and resident coffee sommelier, Ayman El-Sawa. How you doing, Ayman?
Good, Adrian. How are you doing?
Do you get ashy in cold weather? You've got darker skin.
A little bit. Yeah.
I know it's
dry.
Well. Everybody gets dark skin. It's just the darker, or everybody gets dry skin. It's just the darker your skin and the more embarrassing and obvious it is, right?
Yeah, I need the lotion. And California is very dry. So doesn't help. Not much humidity.
Yeah, I'm the
and your
color
part
of
of California
ash.
gets a little bit cooler.
I'm the color of ash. So like my good
You are
friend
ash
calls me-
camo.
Yeah, they call me Melanon.
Melanon.
When I got this sleeve, all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I am so ashy all the time. So I do a much better
interesting.
job taking care of my skin now.
Yeah, for sure. When you have a tattoo, like if you want it to keep looking good, I've heard there's like whole skin regimens you need to do to keep it from, put like the strongest lotion you can in the sun. Otherwise the color drains out, right?
Yeah. When you can feel too, like the dark color attracts more, you know how black attracts more heat from the sun? If I stand in the sun, I can feel like a definite difference between both arms. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't go in the sun anyway, because again, melanon.
Yeah. Not much natural protection.
No.
I'm the opposite. I desperately need sun. I get cranky if I don't soak some up. We have an announcement, and that is because we are getting close to RSA conference. Or are we supposed to say RSAC conference? It's still a bit awkward to say that, but I think that's how you're supposed to say it. But Security Weekly listeners can save $100 on their RSAC 2026 All Access Pass. RSAC 2026 conference will take place March 23rd to March 26th in San Francisco. To register using our discount code, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC26 and use the code 56U5SecWeekly. We hope to see you there.
It's a complicated string.
Yeah, I wish we could make that easier, but I'm guessing they give that to us, and they're probably giving out a lot of these codes. So it's not. I mean, how many other Sec Weeklies are there? Couldn't it just be Sec Weekly?
We'll just say go to our website.
Yeah, but Sean, you're speaking, right? I saw you in the
RSA, talking about
speaker powwow,
attack and defense. Yeah. Absolutely, and you are as well, Adrian.
Yeah, well, sorry, I missed your topic there. What are you talking about? At RSA?
Microsoft Entra ID attack and defense.
Okay.
And yourself?
And mine, I am co-presenting with Adam Shostak, and the title is "A Failure's a Terrible Thing to Waste: The Case for Breach Transparency." Cool. So the TLDR is, the more we know about how companies fail and get hacked, and get compromised or have incidents, like not everything's malicious. Sometimes it's accidental. The better we can focus on the right things. All right. So moving on to our first topic here. I've been thinking a lot, and this is something I try and do from year to year is kind of sit down and think about, okay, like what are we going to focus on for the next year topic wise? Because if I just let stuff come to me, it's just going to be more AI all the time. And I'm kind of tired of that. I want to focus on some other things. And I do think, so part of it is going to be a focus on AI, but from a more, if it can even be more critical lens, in that I do believe 2026, we've either already hit peak or we're going to hit peak with AI in everything, where I think some companies are going to be forced to pivot. Some companies that have found a good niche will get acquired or, will grow tremendously. And I think we'll kind of see the winners and losers start to shake out this year. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I think that a big thing that we could do as far as AI goes is help cut through the hype, because we've heard the buzzwords before. We know that there's things that work with AI and there's things that don't work with AI. So I think really cutting through that and providing some examples of what works well and what still has to be evolved. I spoke with a friend over the weekend, and he has a small business, and he switched from one platform to another. Both leverage AI. And unfortunately, one of them is actually responding to customer queries with AI and not being very nice about it. Basically saying, you haven't responded to me in a week. If you don't respond in the next 24 hours, I'm going to remove you from our contact list. So, I mean, there needs to be, and there's no way to turn the AI off. So,
wow.
there's definitely some problematic areas with these companies that are just kind of jamming AI into situations and places that it might not facilitate healthy conversation and positive communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the quality assurance? Or maybe AI is also doing the quality assurance piece of it.
I guess it depends whose AI you're using too. Some of the different providers are a little bit more a-holy than the
AI?
other ones. Yeah. Well, and the other thing I think we could do a good job of is we're going to talk about hiring later. And when I was door knocking over the last week, I started talking to this woman and she said, oh, my son's a senior in high school and he's going to graduate, but his instructor in this cybersecurity class is telling him he needs to pivot to a different field because AI is going to completely eliminate his job. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, unfortunately for AI, it's not very creative. And so, it's never going to develop novel attacks. It might string together things that already existed, but she ended up making him come out and talk to me. This poor kid is like barefoot trying to enjoy his Christmas vacation. And I just told him, I was like, the reason that you need mischievous kids sitting in security operations centers is because there are mischievous kids sitting on the other side, always coming up with new things. And, it really was disheartening to me. And his instructor, when he's not doing cybersecurity stuff, works at a giant defense contractor here. And so to hear somebody who really ought to know that that's just BS, discouraging teenagers from going into the field, really, it kind of pissed me off. I wanted to be like, give me your teacher's phone number, but I have enough fights going on right now that I don't even.
One at a time.
So I think talking about, how maybe people's careers will change and how the skills they need will change and what enterprise hiring managers should be thinking about in terms of the skills they're looking for, but also hopefully dispelling some of those myths because it's not doing anybody any service to let people think that.
Yeah, no, I just dropped in our Slack. It doesn't help that we have the CEO of a $5 trillion company, NVIDIA, saying robots could be AI immigrants that address labor shortages. That is just not helping at all. And I kind of like the way that's hitting me is kind of like, I think we're all old enough to remember the first invasion of Iraq, where they said the U.S. forces were definitely, or maybe that was the second, definitely not in Baghdad. Remember the press guy?
Yeah.
Who was like had these kind of ridiculous, well, he was doing his job, right? He was like, the American soldiers are killing themselves just at the sight of us, Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of how this statement's hitting me. Like, oh, we got to keep this thing going as long as possible. We gotta keep faking it to keep the the money thing from collapsing.
And
that's
we
why
also
they're
have to look
putting
at the
AI.
source.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We
Sean.
also have to look at the source. I mean, this is the CEO of NVIDIA, whose job is to push more NVIDIA chips and sell more of their product, which ultimately is what AI is built on. Yeah, exactly. So if he's going to be like, robots are going to be the thing, all these companies that have robots are going to be like, well, let's go with NVIDIA. They understand our vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like if it had as much traction as NVIDIA really needs it to have, you wouldn't see like Google putting AI buttons in places where you can't help but accidentally hit them. Like every time I look at a photo that somebody sends me on my phone, there's a big ass remix button that's trying to pull up Nano Banana that it's really hard not to hit it. And I gotta believe you wouldn't be manufacturing demand like that if it actually existed. Just my snarky opinion.
So to Sean's point, I would love, I do want to take suggestions from our audience on what we should cover this year. But on the AI piece of it, I am looking for experiences one way or the other from folks. I mean, really on the positive side, where has it really kind of transformed things for people? I want to hear more of that because I'm just not seeing a whole lot of it, and I'm sure it's happening out there. Maybe some guests we can have on the show. We can talk about not a cool demo, right? Like how at scale, like this is, moved the needle for a company in terms of revenue or productivity or efficiency or something like that.
One thing that we probably don't talk much about previously that I would like to hear more is how enterprise security teams are shaping up these days, right? With a few things. One, the labor, excessive labor, like, there's smaller budgets, two, a lot more talent out there, and then three, the use of AI. But would like to make the AI part like a smaller portion. But how teams are shaping, whether it's a small startup or a large enterprise team. So I'd be curious. Maybe we get more a variety of security leaders on the show and see how their teams are doing or what their plans are for the year.
Yeah. I wrote that one down.
The other thing that I've been hearing a lot, which is unfortunate, is kind of the tail wagging the dog. So, somebody at one of the very, very large staffing companies reached out to me and they were like, we're being told that if we don't use AI in 2026, like it will meaningfully impact our performance reviews. And you have to know that that's because somebody very high up in that company made a stupid, very large investment in AI. Yeah. And now they're like, oh, well, you guys better figure out how to use this money that I spent. Otherwise, I'm going to get a ding on my performance review. And so to Adrian's point, like I'd like to hear, I think the best applications of most new technology are bottoms up. Somebody finds out how to meaningfully use it in their individual role and then figures out how to expand that. But it seems like there's a lot of top-down mandates now happening, and that's not healthy for anybody, I don't think.
Yeah. So a few other things before we wrap up this session here. The battle against Infostealers and session hijacking, I want to dive into a little bit more. We had a really interesting topic segment on it a few weeks ago before the break. And it seems like Macs are kind of an odd one out here because of TPMs and some of the standards there. So I want to learn more about that and see what the industry is doing about that, because I feel like that's one of those foundational things that will have more of a significant impact on security than any of this AI stuff, just because it's such a common attack type and malware type. And then the state of trust in outsourcing. We see more and more third-party breaches these days where, even if you do a perfect job, your security team does a perfect job, is it even going to matter if 50% of your stuff is outsourced and they're doing a less than perfect job over there at some of your third parties?
Yeah, I think 3 or 4 of the top 10 security breaches from 2025 were third-party breaches.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got that. We'll talk about that a little bit in the news. Vulnerability management, I think this is, again, we had a few interviews on that in Q4 last year. 2025, and I think this is going to be a significant year for vulnerability management. The future of the SOC, what does it look like if it's not going to be AI, if AI ends up not really moving the needle a whole lot there? So I think that's kind of built into the first one. That's kind of one of these put up or shut up, like what has actually happened here? Maybe we get an MSSP to come on, right? And because if anybody's going to be going after this with a lot of resources, I would think it's the ones with that stand to financially profit on better margins by using AI. And I think that's it. One last note, speaking of margins, I was looking, I had to prep for an IANS advisory call the other day, and I hadn't looked at pricing for Microsoft Security Copilot before. And just for doing basic stuff, it ends up being 30 to 40 grand a month. Like for one person to use it, 1 or 2 people to use it occasionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've been having this conversation with people a lot in the pricing transparency. So one of the things I think we really need, both with AI, but also just with cloud services in general, is a level of transparency about what the true cost is, because I think you see it both ways. I think that you're seeing...
You mean versus the markup?
Yeah, well, not just versus markup, but also mark down, because there's also a bunch of AI services that are being provided for free that a lot of the big providers are subsidizing that and basically borrowing from 2027 to hook you on AI in 2026. And I think there should be some transparency there in what's the true cost of the service that you're using, how much is it being marked down or subsidized for you to use it. And so I just think that we don't have a lot of pricing transparency in general. And this has been going on since kind of the advent of cloud computing, that, a bunch of us who pay for cloud services are paying to supplement the freemium services that other people are receiving. And I think we really need to all have a much better idea of what those economics really are and who's paying for what and what the cost of free really is, because it's not very clear to me.
Yeah, and what I did here in this case, Microsoft does have a pricing calculator, but I know from experience that with metered services, what the calculator tells you and what you end up with in overage costs versus your prepay costs can be very different. So I had to seek out a bunch of examples from folks like what did you actually end up paying? And almost in every single case, it was more than what the calculator told them, what they had budgeted for. So, more on that throughout the year. Get in touch. Let us know. You can ping us on LinkedIn. You can first name last name at cyberriskalliance.com. You can email me. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. Social media. I'm Zawaba everywhere. So let us know what you want to hear from the show this year. And with that, we will wrap up this segment, and we'll be back talking about hiring in cyber after this break. Let's face it, enterprise data is everywhere. It's spread across apps, devices, and hybrid cloud environments, and traditional security tools are struggling to keep up. That's where Sky-High Security makes a difference. Its Security Service Edge platform brings together capabilities like data security posture management, remote browser isolation, secure web gateway, and AI to unify and strengthen data protection. Designed for today's digital landscape, Sky-High Security helps organizations discover, classify, and track sensitive data, no matter where it lives. To learn how businesses are future-proofing their data security, visit securityweekly.com/Sky-High Security. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny at execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's Zero Trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. Right now with Tanium, IT and security teams complete patching programs in minutes, not weeks. Reduce software vulnerabilities by up to 97%. Cut incident response times by up to 99%. This is not just IT, this is autonomous IT, making business, your business, unstoppable. Tanium, autonomous IT, unstoppable business. See more at securityweekly.com/Tanium. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. For this week's topic segment, we're discussing hiring in cybersecurity. This is something we've touched on a few times, but I don't think we've really gone really in depth before. I know, Jackie, you and Ayman were very excited to cover this. Sean, I'm sure you have some experience here as well. I'm mostly going to stay out of it because I haven't done any hiring in over a decade. So I'm sure some things have changed, but I'm very interested to hear both about, like what do you want to cover it from the person trying to get hired's perspective, the hiring manager's perspective? We're going to cover it from both. What's the idea here?
I would do both. Yeah.
Yeah,
we could do both. State of the job market, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you, you prepared a little bit for this, Ayman. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah. Well, so some background. I've had a podcast previously called Getting into InfoSec, where I interviewed people and saw how their journey came in. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's important, because there's no one way to get into security. There's so many. So I could interview 1,000 different people and literally get 1,000 different ways of how a person got into security. So that's that podcast. So, and the reason that that's there is to encourage people out there to learn from these people's stories and their adventures and how to get in. So that's some background. Right now, let's moving up to now. The job. Well, last year the job market was pretty bad. Past 2 years, it's been really bad, like super brutal. We're talking about like CISOs getting laid off, CISOs taking more than 50% pay cuts, just the teams, being reduced. And that's, I think, some combination is the lack of funding that's out there, and also people getting paid a lot during the pandemic, and now they're companies trying to save. Now, I think the market is starting to warm up a little bit, at least here. So in the Bay Area, there's a lot of AI companies, a lot of new companies coming up, and they're trying to sell to enterprises, and they need a head of security. So both in New York and San Francisco, it's starting to warm up. They are paying less, so companies are paying less than they used to. So that's something different for folks. Unless you're in a niche space, expect to get paid a little less. What else? People are expecting more. So because the job market, it's still not super hot or super warm, so they're going to expect you to do more, which is, in the age of AI, you can do more now as well. So they're going to expect you to know how to do more things and know how to use AI and the modern tools and things like that. So I'll pause here. Jackie?
Yeah, I have a handful of different conversations with people when it comes to getting jobs in general. And I've been very fortunate in that I haven't really had to apply to a job in years. And so one of those reasons is that I think a lot of times people chase skills rather than chasing application. And, getting as many certifications as they can, going through as many courses as they can. And those are really helpful, I guess, as a starting point. But for myself, looking at hiring people, I'm usually looking at not like what skills do you have, but how do you apply them? What have you done with them? What do you have to show for all of the knowledge that you've gained? And also passion. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like grepping through logs is not something that generally gives people goosebumps, but being able to show that not only did I get this knowledge or get these skills, but then here's this cool thing that because I'm creative, because I'm constantly thinking about solving problems and how the industry's changing, I'm applying these skills to different things. So not all hiring managers want somebody to have an opinion. I'm not the person to hire for those managers, but I have opinions on things, and I think that when I do a lot of mentoring, especially of younger women through WeSys, because I work with WeSys a lot, and generally that's what I'm telling them is like whatever hours that you just spent getting that latest certification are going to have been wasted if you can't say, all right, I got this certification, and then here's a problem that I applied that to. Here's an opinion on where this area of security is going, be it identity and access management, be it vulnerability management, and I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about AI, but I think it is important to have an opinion and a story about how you view the role you're trying to go into evolving with AI, where you think it can help, where you think it's going to hurt. Like, for example, identity and access management. We've generally had non-human identities and human identities, and they do very distinct and separate things. But now with agentic AI, you have non-human entities doing somewhat human things and making deterministic and probabilistic decisions. And that's a much different environment than we've ever worked in. And so I think that, it doesn't just come down to skills. If you're looking to fill a somewhat low entry level role and you need like 15 people, then yeah, you're probably just looking for worker bots. But for the most part, I think security is just as much an art as it is a science. And so if you can't show that you've taken all of the scientific facts that you've learned about security and turned them into your own art form and your own way of practicing them, I'm not sure that they're always overly useful. And that's one of the traps I see a lot of, especially women coming into the industry fall into, is they come to me and they're like, hey, I got these 14 certifications and I still can't get a job. And I'm like, okay, well, show me one of your projects. Like, what have you built? What have you worked on? And like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, what good are those certifications?
Let me break in here and back you up a little bit, Jackie, because at the beginning you implied that jobs tend to come to you, that you don't have to go out and get jobs, if I'm interpreting that correctly. I imagine people are thinking, well, I like that option. How do I do that? How did you make that happen, do you think, Jackie?
I have a lot of opinions and I generally go down rabbit holes. So if I have a thesis on something, so for example, like identity and access management, like how is that going to change? And what is the next version of identity and access management that helps us combine, these non-human identities doing somewhat human things? And how is that going to change the tools we need to use? How is that going to change? And I write a lot, and I know not everybody's great at writing. If you're not good at writing, you can make videos, but I generally put myself out there, and that is it's not very comfortable for everybody to do that. But if you want people to come to you with jobs, they need to be able to find you. They need to be able to see you. So I got my first data science and security job building detections for a SIM by building out a GitHub. And it wasn't even a security related model. It was a machine learning model that used image recognition in Amazon book covers with the ratings of that book on Amazon. And I built a model that could judge a book by its cover. So I took 1 million book cover images, what that book was rated on Amazon. And then you could upload a new book cover and it would say, just based on your book cover, based on my training knowledge, you're going to be a 3.5 on Amazon. Then I never got to build the next iteration because the next iteration was identifying what things you could do to improve that book cover image, to improve the rating on Amazon. But things like that, like things that seem silly, you have to follow your passion. You have to have be inquisitive, because that, I always say mischievous kids are what most security people are. We're very mischievous kids that found a way to use that mischief for good. And so if you don't want to be a LinkedIn personality, which I never expected to be, I wasn't even allowed to have a LinkedIn when I worked in finance because of securities laws. If you don't want to be out there, start a blog, start something that you can send to people to be like, hey, here's this cool stuff I'm working on. Here's what I'm interested in.
These are work samples. It's a lot easier to hire somebody 100%. From work samples than from a resume.
Yeah. Because we've all met a lot of really stupid PhDs. We've all met people that have a PhD in something, but their ability to actually apply that to the real world, to explain to you what they're doing and why it's important is a huge hurdle for them. So you kind of have to get over that. I don't want to be attention seeking and look at it more as my resume. If I'm putting my resume out, then I don't, to the broader world, then more jobs are going to come in versus applying to one job individually. And so I think that's it's hard, especially if you're in your 40s right now. You were always taught not to be attention seeking. It was very cringy, and you got to get over that.
I just want to highlight something you said early on there, which was strong opinions. Yeah. I think the first thing you said when I asked you how you did that, and I had a mentor that basically told me the same thing. He said, my most controversial blog posts are the ones that kind of put me on the map. They're the reason people know who I am. And I think it's counterintuitive for a lot of folks who are very worried about offending people, about rocking the boat, that kind of thing. But, if you don't do any of those things, you're not memorable. You don't come back up in the, when people are doing the final choice on who they're going to hire.
I think
Sean,
one of the things
I want to give you a chance. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I think one of the things that Jackie's hitting on here is basically building a personal brand. Having a LinkedIn page is part of that. Having a web page that you post articles to, you work on solving problems, figuring out how to showcase what you do and how you're helping, basically putting content out there for free so that people can actually take that and use it and apply it to their situation. If that applies to writing code, then having a GitHub repo or multiple repos that you upload to, so you have repositories that show what you've worked on. That comes into play with what Jackie was talking about, being able to apply certain skills, whether it's Python, PowerShell, Rust, what have you. Show that you know and understand how to leverage those skills to solve a certain problem.
So a question for you, Sean. Hiring managers, how wary should they be of, something AI slop generated in 5 minutes, that looks like a work sample, but really they just prompted it, to make it look like they're working on a cool project or something like that?
I mean, I guess there's two different ways to look at it. One, if the code is good, then that person knows how to leverage AI to put something together that's pretty solid. But the other way to look at it is, if the code is not good, then that person's not applying AI or their skills to a level where maybe they should.
Yeah.
What if the hiring manager doesn't code and they can't tell the difference between AI slop and good quality work?
Good question.
Well, I mean, yeah. So, that is a good question. I probably don't have a good opinion to say on that one. But
that's when you have to go deeper and ask, hey, I see that you probably used AI to help you create this. Tell me more about what were the prompts that you used with AI? Like, it's okay to admit you used AI. And I actually had this debate with somebody a couple days ago.
You could use AI to come up with good questions for them.
Yeah, well, exactly. Right? Well, yeah. And the thing is that I use AI to write all the time, but it's my ability. We were talking about taste before the holiday break, and it's my ability to go in and apply my taste to what came out of the AI and edit what it said and make it sound like me that really differentiates me from the 4 emoji bullet lists on LinkedIn that are like, oh my God, I hate this, because it's obviously AI. And so I think we need to not be so elitist that, not everybody can write, like I said. So for some people, being able to use AI to write for you, if that's not your strong suit, that's great. Yeah. I just want to know what prompts you used, what the personal touch you put on it was, and how. If you just generated something with AI and cut and pasted it, hard pass. I don't care how good you are at work, because that shows me that you don't review things before you push them. And I don't need somebody pushing something into prod that they haven't reviewed. Yeah. So I think it's the attention to detail.
It's an opportunity to be honest about this too, because I think there's a danger of AI being this thing that, you're secretly ashamed of using, or you don't want anybody to know that you used it. Like, let's just be upfront, and that's what you want in an employee, is somebody who's just going to tell you straight up, yeah, I used AI, but I didn't just use AI, and are comfortable talking about how they used it. Cause I wonder, I worry that there is going to be this kind of like passing it off as my work. Like, I don't want to give AI the credit.
Yeah.
Or I don't, there's some negative connotation.
There's definitely parts of it where AI, I feel, and I think many others do as well, AI is very useful. One is ideating, coming up with a way to solve that blank paper approach. I don't know exactly what to say. AI, give me an outline of this topic so that I can start to get past this blank page of paper that I don't know how to actually put it together. And the other part is review. So after I've written it, I could have AI review it and say, does this read well? Is this concise? Are there facts that I'm missing? What's a better way to phrase certain things? So I think there's definitely ways that AI can improve the process and improve what people do. And I think that's what people are talking about generally when they're talking about leveraging AI to do better and do better work.
So it sounds to me like that should be just a common interview question, right? Like, how do you leverage AI, to be more efficient, more effective? Is that? Yeah.
So I think you're right, but I think we're going down a rabbit hole, but we're not understanding how AI can help us with the job, like help you get a job. It's I can't stress enough. It's like such an amazing age right now. Why? Because AI can help you do things that you could took weeks for you to learn before. You could do it now. So. Like a lot of CISOs, not a lot, some CISOs are coding again, right? Like, the technical CISO, or there's a couple of tracks of CISOs, but the ones that used to be technical, like we like to code, we like to tinker and make things. Now you can create new things. And so in some of the talks, every time I say, and back to what Jackie was saying, is like, do right? So write a blog post. But what are you going to write a blog post about? Well, learn something, right? And so what are you going to learn about? Well, come up with some project. I mean, it could be a non-security thing. You could take some sort of open source CMS like Ghost or anything like that and deploy it on Docker. And even if you know nothing, you could just set up Claude Code or something and say, hey, start me from basics and help me deploy this. And now you'll learn Docker, you'll learn CI/CD or GitHub deployment, forking and branching and all these kind of things that will make you a better security engineer, right?
Yeah.
Because what we want is people with skills, and what's hard is for people to get those skills, and colleges are not teaching them those skills. So how are you going to get those skills, right? It's kind of like that conundrum. Yeah. So go there and just do things. It could be a simple JavaScript app or make a game or whatever it may be, but AI can really help you with that. I'm not talking about cut and pasting code from ChatGPT and putting actual coding, tinkering in there. You could ask, the beauty, and I've said this before, is you could ask stupid questions to the AI and it'll give you answers, and you don't have to worry about asking a stupid question to
being
a mentor
judged.
Like that. You're being judged. Yeah. Exactly.
But I also think there's a lot of value in admitting what you don't know. And this is the problem, is I think, so a couple things that popped into my mind while Ayman was talking is how to answer a question that you don't know. And I think a lot of times people interviewing think that people expect them to know everything, and you don't have to. And I respect a candidate significantly more when they're like, well, I've never solved that problem before, but here's something similar. And here's how I would go about trying to figure out how to solve that. And so we can link to it in the show notes. I wrote this document called Pathways for WeSys that was basically like, I made a video a couple years ago that was like, here's how my non-security background was actually my strong suit when I became a data scientist and started writing detections, is that I started writing a Python detection that was just a basic regression model based on how I would find financial fraud, because I didn't know what a SIM was and I was coding detections for one. And because I wrote a very general, like, what are you touching? How valuable is it? When are you touching it? Is this normal for the last week, 15 days, 30 days? We found significant compromises on a bunch of connected devices on a network like copier printers. And I think if I had had more security knowledge, I would never have written that detection. And so I think we're looking for skills. We're looking for, pattern detection. We're looking for project management, like all of these different things. And so being able to say, I don't know the answer to that question because I've never dealt with that problem before, but I'm really good at figuring out how to deal with problems. And here's another situation where I've dealt with a similar problem and within a couple days was able to gain enough knowledge to address it. And I think that's really important. The other thing is, and this may be controversial, don't just send your resume into a portal, because the recruiters that I had a really poor experience with a recruiter where they were like, well, we're specifically looking for somebody in network. And I'm like, dude, I'm autistic and smart. I can become an expert in almost anything in like 2 weeks if I'm really interested in it. I have done so many other areas of security, and this was an analyst relations manager position. And I'm like, I know every analyst in security. Like, it doesn't matter whether I know that specific niche, that I can learn. What you're actually supposed to be hiring for an analyst, and I had to explain this to the recruiter, you're supposed to be hiring for relationships, messaging, and the ability to communicate your product to people in a compelling way. Like the actual technology, I'm not going to be writing your freaking network software. Like, what does it matter if I have that specific niche? So I am the one who will connect with somebody on LinkedIn and be like, hey, saw you had this position open. Here's why I find that really compelling. Here's what my background is. If you'd rather I go through the regular process, I'd be happy to, but I figured I'd reach out to you directly.
That's your cover letter.
Yeah.
Right? These days.
Yeah. Because recruiters suck. Recruiters suck, and they don't understand the technology. They are given a list of qualifications, and if they can't check those boxes, they throw your resume away. And a lot of times it's being done by AI now. So don't ever be afraid to reach out to somebody directly. The worst thing that's going to happen is you don't get a response, and then you haven't wasted 15 minutes applying to a job on a portal where your resume goes in a heap. So that's my other big thing.
All right. With that, we're all out of time for this topic segment, but stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes with the weekly news. Identity and access management is hard. Whether it's administering identities, managing and controlling access, building, implementing, and enforcing policies, or governing the whole thing, IAM is often the realm of inefficient processes, bloated implementation timelines, and expensive and complex projects that struggle to solve problems. Thanks to Junto, those challenges can be a thing of the past. Junto delivers a full-stack IAM platform with a microservices architecture that delivers all of the functionality your unique environment demands, and an implementation model built for rapid and relevant time to value without requiring specialized staff and skills. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Junto. Cyber threats follow a familiar path, an attack chain reused across the globe. Fortra knows how the enemy operates, so you can stay one step ahead. Our advanced security solutions detect, disrupt, and defeat threats at every stage, protecting your data, business, and customers. With Fortra at your side, the battle ends before it begins. Visit securityweekly.com/Fortra to see how you can get total attack chain coverage. AI has officially moved past the hype. The question isn't should we use AI anymore, it's how do we use it in a way that truly helps. Meet Delinea Iris AI, practical AI to secure the modern enterprise, designed to work quietly in the background, making faster, smarter access decisions, reducing risk, and giving your team time back. This isn't AI for show. It's purpose-built for identity security, boosting productivity without adding friction. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Delinea. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Now for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can check out securityweekly.com/ESW441 if you want to follow along as we go through the news or for links to the articles that we're covering. And yeah, starting with funding and M&A looks pretty healthy this year so far. Sierra raised $400 million from private equity. We're seeing so many of these big private equity rounds. Jackie, what's that all about?
I mean, I think, and I've had this conversation with a bunch of venture capital investors in the last year. IPO is not cheap. IPO used to be the be all end all of.
Would you consider this an exit then? Is this an exit? Is this a majority, you think?
No, I don't think it's an exit, but I think that there's a handful of things happening. I think some funds, so it's the trends that I've seen is it's getting harder for VCs to raise funds because of private equity deals, and private equity is often easier to place afterwards. But yeah, I think, generally what we used to see is people would raise like ABC, and then if you started to hit round D or E or F and you hadn't IPO'd yet, you were company non grata in terms of the market. And this is just not the norm anymore. Very few people are IPOing. And the NASDAQ and NYSE are doing a lot to try to attract IPOs again, try to make it less headache and less paperwork to do that. But and I also think that a lot of private equity investors, when you see periods of low rates for extended periods of time, and rates are a little bit higher than they were post-financial crisis, but they're not great. You just tend to see investors looking for places to park their cash. I also think there's a lot of really, really overvalued stock right now. So you're starting to see wealthy, executives and things like that. Their stocks are at all-time highs because the market's doing really well. So they'll liquidate a lot of their, mature or vested stock and then start pivoting it into private equity funds. So the other big thing that's happened is that because of Dodd-Frank, big banks can't directly get into the lending and debt business as much as they used to before the financial crisis. And so there's this whole kind of shadow banking system that has sprung up around private equity, where that's, where I used to maybe go get a loan from JP Morgan or, one of the other big banks. Now I'm going to hit the shadow banking system and get private equity instead. So there's just a lot of it's interesting how every time we try to institute regulations to fix things, we generally just kind of create murkier stuff underneath it. And
there's another workaround, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad SPACs were kind of short-lived. That was kind of a weird thing. I haven't seen much of that since. But But yeah, definitely not an exit. I looked up Sierra's valuation, and they are calling this a Series F, 400 million Series F. I think it's actually a down round technically. I think their Series E was like 540 million. But yeah, $9 billion valuation. And speaking of nearly 10 billion, the Series E was 540 million. We have an acquisition. Armis got picked up by ServiceNow. Armis is a IoT security platform, and they got picked up for 7.8 billion.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Just kind of thinking about those two businesses and how they might come together is, I don't know. I had heard rumors that ServiceNow was going to do an acquisition, and I actually had heard it was going to be of a different company. So this is just, I'm really interested to see how this one plays out and how ServiceNow plans on integrating this into their platform, or if they're trying to run it as a somewhat independent entity.
Yeah, same. Like it doesn't seem like a natural fit initially, but I'm sure somebody's gonna. This is pretty recent, so I'm sure somebody's gonna write about the rationale there. Yeah. Any others here that are really jumping out to folks?
No, I mean, I think again, like, because it's almost gotten boring because companies are just raising more and more and more cash. So the other thing that I probably should have mentioned was Sierra, not Sierra specifically, but it used to be that companies were expected to hit break even or cash flow positive within a handful of years of raising their first couple of rounds. Yeah. And I think that it's now just become the norm that you're just going to be cash flow negative and not break even for years and years and years and years. And there's always some additional build out, some additional like product line expansion, a new SKU, something like that, that is just fueling these like ever increasing rounds of equity. And it's a fascinating kind of shift in expectation, and that we're okay with companies just never becoming profitable to the tune of billions of dollars. And I don't really see that changing until the market corrects.
Wasn't there pressure before to make them like to not allow that for too long, or was that only a blip?
Yeah, it used to be that investors, venture capital investors primarily, wanted you to become cash flow positive because as part of their portfolio, right? They want to be able to exit, and they want to be able to either you need to be generating returns for their fund, or they want to be able to exit via IPO. And it used to be that in order to IPO, you needed to be cash flow positive or very close to it. And so the whole market has so fundamentally changed since I was I worked at SVB, and we were doing, venture rounds and IPOs. And it's kind of insane to see, like, if you were like, but we all kind of live our lives that way too, right? Like, it used to be the goal that by your mid to late 40s, all of your debt was paid off. And that's just not the way people live anymore either.
Right.
So yeah, it's just I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on the wealth gap and the fact that there's now over 900 billionaires in the United States, but I think also a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of money has transferred up into the wealthy class, and they can't just sit on cash. So they all have to deploy cash into private equity funds.
Yeah, one other one that I found kind of interesting here was Echo. So we're, ever since ChainGuard started raising over $1 billion, we've seen Minimus jump into the space. Echo just seems the latest one here, where they build the secure images for you, so you're basically outsourcing vulnerability management and hardening to this company for your Docker Kubernetes images.
Yeah, there's another company in there, but they weren't very nice to me, so I'm not going to mention them for free. But it's just tip on analyst relations. Don't ever start out a briefing with an analyst by talking smack about your competitors. That is such small hand energy. Like, And it is a really good way to put a really bad
Small
taste in
hand
an analyst.
energy.
Well, I was going to say small something else, but I was trying to keep it ESW appropriate. But yeah,
I
it's
got
like,
you. It translated in my head.
It's
I heard it.
bizarro to me that, and I actually had more than one briefing with this company, and they did the same thing multiple times to the point that I was like, this is
I've
a
worked with
real
a few like
indicator
that.
you don't have a compelling story for your own company if you have to open it up by like very aggressively talking smack about a company that if you had done any research, you would know that I had worked with before. It was bizarre. Yeah. So just a tip on analyst relations. If you want people to mention you for free, don't be a jerk.
Treat everybody nicely. It's doesn't cost you anything extra. It's a stupid risk to take to badmouth. Maybe the spouse of the person you're talking to runs their PR, right? You don't know. Well, clearly you didn't research it. So yeah, not worth it. I've worked with a few of those companies, and I would do whatever it took to not have to work with them. So yeah. If it seems like people are avoiding you, it's probably because you were a jerk.
I literally told my salesperson, like, please don't schedule me a briefing with this company again.
Yeah.
Like, I can only control my face for so long.
Yeah. Let's see. Moving on to some of the other stories. So we've kind of seen. I forget if Santa got some proper funding. I think they built a proper company around it. But I think this is separate from this. So Santa is if I recall correctly, it's like an EDR for macOS, lightweight macOS detection sidecar for Santa that evaluates endpoint security telemetry locally with CEL rules and forwards only match detection signals to a backend server. So yeah, sounds kind of like EDR, lightweight macOS detection agent. Yeah, so always cool when we see tools like this, and just being in the industry for a while, wouldn't be surprised if I started to, what's the license here? We start seeing commercial products built around this, right?
Yeah, I was going to say you'd think there would be more of these, but I guess if it's Mac OS, not necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard positive things about Santa. I think it originally spun out of Google, if I recall correctly. This would be something I would throw over to Guillaume if he was with us, because he keeps up on all this stuff since he is everything Apple he keeps up with. Our next item also has to do with detection engineering. What are composite detections? I found this really interesting. This whole series from Zach Allen, this is Detection Engineering Weekly. Very useful. Lots of great examples. This is one of my pet peeves with detection stuff is people talk at a high level. Like, actually show me some code. Show me how you're doing your detections. I find it's necessary to really kind of grok what's going on here, but yeah, really good read. Lots of visual diagrams, stuff like that. He talks about the some of the trade-offs you have to deal with in detection engineering, where you have to control false positive rate, get into what I like to refer to as red flags versus yellow flags. This is always bad every time you see it versus maybe this is bad if it's 2 a.m. and it's coming from, the lobby PC.
Yeah. I always like what I liked about this is that it ties back to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And I like people always talk about frameworks, but there's very little direct application. It's usually this very high level, the NIST and the MITRE, and they use it as if it's a check the box, or if it's well, this thing recommends this, but this really kind of goes into what are the different things that are under the MITRE and ATT&CK framework and how do they work? And then, I like the concept of doing multiple different detections and kind of maybe it just tickles my pattern matching nerve, but it's, I always think about it doing, being a human lie detector, with the person, if they're doing one thing that's a little weird, that might be something, but you take the combination of they were stuttering, their eyes were shifting back and forth, they So the whole concept of like creating a composite that looks at different risky behaviors and this is kind of what I was talking about when I was saying I was writing detections for SIMs, is that I didn't really know what MITRE an attack was. I was just kind of trying to take a number of different anomalous behaviors and scoring them on how anomalous are they, and in combination, is this likely to be a bad thing?
Right. Let's see. So the next item here, this is kind of an interesting trend. I mentioned one of the topics I want to focus on this podcast this year are Infostealers and session hijacking. And coincidentally, this is a coincidence. Hudson Rock, who has had some really interesting reports, investigations into malware and incidents and things like that, actually has Infostealers.com. And they're posting stuff on Infostealers.com. So it's that big of a deal. And right on the front page of that, they have a big number, 34 million compromised machines. So suggesting Infostealers are scooping up credentials from this many machines. And there's a good chance one of your employees is on that list, right? Like that's how Infostealers work. They tend to be, it's like the opposite of ransomware. They don't want to be super obvious about what they're doing because they can just sit there and keep collecting anything from crypto wallets to API keys to your OAuth keys from your logged in sessions, your refresh tokens, all that kind of stuff. But this particular one is talking about ClickFix, which is basically the social engineering where you get a page that says you're infected with antivirus. You need to install this to remove it, and it bypasses AV and stuff like that because you willingly install it. Right. And usually the thing you willingly install doesn't have the malware in it. It comes via another, second stage or something like that. But yeah, an interesting write-up. Again, I love that they actually have some examples here. So you get to see some animated GIFs of what this stuff looks like when you encounter it. Looks, very scary screens that visually shake around and stuff like that. And nice detailed report that allows you to, again, on the theme of detections, figure out where can I create a nice broad detection for this kind of stuff, and detect that it's maybe in place on my employee systems.
Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Google's ad network, I have seen, I don't know if it's an issue with security. System? Yeah, I would say in the last probably 3 to 6 months, the number of malicious, deceptive ads coming through Google Ad Network has exploded. And I've seen them. I had to email one of my favorite security outlets 2 weeks ago and say, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you've got Google ads running on the bottom of your screen, and this is what's showing up. And it was like hey, your PDF's out of date. To read this story, click here. And I had never seen that on their website before, and they were like, oh, snap, this is not supposed to, and so they sent it on to be dealt with. But I don't know if it's a volume issue. Yeah, if it's a volume issue, if it's a and then I think it also goes back to
it's fully automated. Like they don't get an opportunity to thumbs up, thumbs down because that ad is changing, 100 times, 1,000 times a day,
and dynamically.
It's fully automated. Yeah, at every level.
Yeah, and there's also the little 3-dot thing to report the ad is so small that it's almost impossible to click it
that
without
you click the ad by mistake instead.
Yeah, that's almost. And they also are starting to put fake dots so that so it's because I usually try to be a good internet citizen and report ads that I see that are malicious, but it's getting harder and harder to do that.
I got one of the Christmas gifts I gave this year was Kagi to all my immediate family, just to get them off of Google, just because it is literally dangerous to use Google at this point.
Yeah.
And also, has been for a while.
I'm also finding that they're not honoring their tracking data. Like something has also slipped with that, because all of a sudden I'm getting very targeted ads on my Roku TV for different things that I'm like, the
that
only
you just
place
searched for?
yeah, the only place I did that was in Chrome, and I'm supposed to have do not track me turned on in Chrome. And all of a sudden within 3 hours, this was showing up as TV ads. Like hearing aids was one of the things that happened. And I was like, the do not track me is not working.
So moving on from that one, let's see. Is there a good segue into? No, not really. I thought we had something else about malware from one of you guys. Yeah, the next one's kind of interesting. The Raspberry Pi used in an attempt to take over Ferry. I'm sure Raspberry didn't they just? No, it was wasn't them that got acquired. It was Arduino got acquired. That's right. But I'm sure they love being in the headlines for being maliciously used. You know, both them and Flipper Zero tend to take a lot of flack just because they're cheap, popular, versatile devices that could be leveraged to do nasty things. So I've never heard of something like this where somebody like physically goes on to a ship or even into, I mean, sure, pen testers do. We've used drop boxes for a long time. You know, if you leave a spare Ethernet port open or a cable somewhere where we can unplug it from a PC or something else and plug in our device, it's pretty common, but not often do you hear about it used in like public places like this, or at least I haven't.
Yeah.
Sean, what did you think of this one?
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, from the perspective of getting onto the ferry, finding a place to plug it into, and then leverage cellular modem in order to connect into the ferry's network. Pretty fascinating. Obviously, it's been done before in corporate networks, and having the ability to connect in via cellular to control the device and send command and control activity and tasks to it. Pretty interesting, because it breaks down that security border or boundary, which should be the ship itself. Being able to extend beyond that is pretty fascinating.
Yeah. And apparently they didn't get much of anywhere because they already had some good protocols in place. Like, I would love to know what that looked like, you know, how they managed to detect and stop it. But yeah, they had a cellular modem on this thing and everything. So, you know, they didn't have to be physically present if it was detected.
Well, luckily
to leverage it.
Luckily the ferry wasn't in motion. I think it was just about to depart, right? So
yeah, it all happened at the port. Yeah, it would definitely suck if the thing became stranded at sea or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and it was a ferry that goes from the French port. I'm not even going to try to say that. From a French port to Algeria. French is not one of the languages I can say stuff in.
Yeah. Given the nature of the globe right now, something like, you could very easily see where something like this could be turned into something pretty dangerous. I mean, we've seen boats accidentally take bridges out in the last couple of years, but it's, I don't know. I think it's in our nature as security people to catastrophize everything, but this, you could see the potential for this to be pretty nasty.
Sure. Yeah. I'm a screenwriter somewhere is already working on this, working on some angle with this. Well, I mean, we had Speed with a cruise ship, right? Wasn't the Speed 2?
It was a horrible movie.
I didn't watch it, but I vaguely recall it dealing with a ship.
It wasn't one of the 17 Fast and Furious.
I think that precluded all of those.
I mean, the whole maritime industry is kind of like a little, behind technology. I mean, there was a documentary about like ships can just turn off their transponders and you just don't know where they are. It's like,
so can airplanes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some new news on that Malaysian flight that came out that basically said the transponder was manually turned off.
Oh,
And there's some new details on what happened there. At least some of the specific things that happen in the cockpit. They have some new stuff on, but yeah, it's really, really interesting industry. There's a lot of Windows 95 and Windows 2000, still running ship systems out there, particularly on like the big commercial ships. Smaller boats are actually, there's a lot of Android stuff. There's a lot of pretty recent stuff on smaller, like personal ships.
Yeah, I mean, I think our ability to the entire financial model of a lot of things that we use needs to be changed, because when you amortize the cost of a ship over 30, 40, 50 years, because they're going to float for that long, and in 1998 you didn't anticipate that tech would be changing as fast as it did, that becomes a really crap investment if you need to spend millions of dollars patching and upgrading. And I think that's going to continue to be an issue.
Those boats do have refits. They do have to pull the boat out of the water, repaint the hull, scrape off the barnacles, stuff like that. It's just software needs to be part of that refit. You need to scrape off Windows 95 as if it were a barnacle and
is it not?
It with... Oh, all right. Top 10 cyber attacks of 2025. No surprises on here. I don't think there were. Actually, I take that back. There were a few here I hadn't heard of. The Asahi data breach was new to me. The Japanese headquartered brewing giant Asahi. Never heard about that one, but apparently it
I thought we
shut down some
of
their operations.
Did we not cover that? I swear to God, we mentioned it at some point on one of our shows, but I could be hallucinating.
I have been having a lot of senior moments, so it's possible. It is possible. Yeah. Claim they stole 27 gigs of files from the company. Of course, it mentions the Jaguar Land Rover hack, a pretty recent one that you can't overlook on a list like this. Clop exploits Oracle e-business suite 0-day vulnerability. That was back in October 2025. So many of these happened in the second half of 2025.
Yeah, I thought the Coinbase one was pretty interesting, primarily because the extortion amount was 20 million. And so instead of paying it, Coinbase basically put up a bounty of 20 million and said, any information that leads
to a boss move.
Fiction. Yeah, I thought that was pretty great. Despite the fact they lost 400 million because of the attack.
Yeah, I forget the CEO's name now, but he doesn't play.
Yeah.
It's an industry where you kind of have to be bold anyway.
Yeah,
Marks and Spencer.
Then there was the Bybit hack, which is the largest crypto heist in history, which had 1.4 billion worth of Ethereum, which was extracted. So that's pretty huge.
And I think they did recover some of that, but I don't know what the latest on that is, how much of that they were able to recover. But yeah, that was huge. Then Power School. I've actually I've been reading some very long reports from 2 Canadian provinces that investigated the Power School breach. So this is a nice thing that Canada can do, is with certain breaches, particularly if they impact government or any kind of public institutions, they get to say, we're going to investigate you now. We're going to ask a bunch of questions and you have to answer our questions. So they released those reports publicly. So this all goes to my RSA talk, right? Transparency in breaches. And we got a bunch of details about it. And I actually found it pretty interesting that they put a lot of the weight on the schools themselves for not doing great due diligence and making sure that their third-party vendor was actually doing the things in its SOC 2, that was actually doing the things it promised to do in the contract. So I was kind of surprised at how much pushback was on the schools themselves for letting Power School basically get away with a lot of this. So yeah, a lot of big, yeah. So what's interesting here is some of these are breaches with one company, and some of these are like 0-day campaigns, right? So like when we think of breaches, even now at this point, like I have a breach database where I put all my notes when I investigate breaches, and it used to be, the header for each entry would be the name of the company that was breached, but about 50% of the time now, it's Oracle e-business 0-day vulnerability. So it's like a whole bunch of companies that were hit with one thing. Salesforce, third-party hacks against them. On-prem SharePoint customers. Yeah, I'd say roughly half of these were basically third-party piece of software that had a vulnerability in it, or a third party that got hacked and impacted all their customers.
Or like this MongoDB thing, which is probably our next conversation piece.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And this one led to some crazy stuff.
Some cybersecurity companies decided that Christmas Day was the best day to announce they couldn't wait one more day. They ruined a whole lot of Christmases. And they dropped an easily exploitable vulnerability disclosure. Yeah. Just before Christmas, which is perfect because you really guarantee to mess up Christmas Day if you drop it, if you give the attackers just a little bit of a head start.
Yep.
I mean, they're always attacking around the holidays anyway, so it's like just like a gift.
Yeah. If the risk of having, so tangent, but I actually almost I had a significant security incident myself on Christmas Day. I used Uber Eats to order Chinese food because it was the only thing open and I was too lazy to cook dinner. And I got a call from somebody who said it showed up as Uber on my caller ID and they said they were Uber support. They read me my order and said, yeah, we just need, since it's Christmas, and I had tipped $50 because it was Christmas. And I was like, if you're out driving Uber Eats on Christmas, you probably need $50. And they were like, I just need the 4-digit code we just text you. And so not even thinking, because when it pops up in text, it just shows you the 4-digit code. I read it to them. He's like, great, we just emailed you one. I need that one too. And thank God when I opened the email, it was like, never share this code with anyone. Uber will never ask you for this. Because I almost did. And I almost let somebody take over my freaking Uber account. And I could not get Uber to verify that it was not an Uber employee that did this. Because I was like, either Uber is compromised. And from what I've heard, they're compromised like 6 ways to Sunday and have not fixed it. It's what I learned investigating this. Or the vendor, like the restaurant, their POS is compromised, because it sounded like somebody in a call center in Southeast Asia. But yeah, so I think Christmas Day is a pretty common exploit day just because people know people are going to be distracted, busy, in a rush. But yeah, so I almost did something really stupid and I told my kids, I'm like, I am such a moron because this is what I do for a living. And I almost let somebody compromise my Uber account through social engineering. But
nobody can be vigilant 24/7.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But this Mongo one was crazy because this ended up being used against Ubisoft.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
And some of that information,
at least one of
was
their
also,
games was taken down indefinitely.
Yeah, well, and also a bunch of internal files leaked, and one of them showed that they significantly compromised the quality of sound in a handful of their different games to save 10 megs of storage. So I don't know if anybody saw this, but basically the industry standard for gaming audio is 48,000 hertz, and for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they used 24,000, and it caused significant compromise of the quality of audio. And apparently they did that. Oh, I'm sorry. They did this to keep the English audio folder around 4.5 gigs because to save 10 gigs of storage, basically, for the game.
I mean, games are ridiculous these days. Like it's almost impossible to game on a console with some of these AAA games because you sit down, you want to play the game, you turn on your console. Oh, sorry, I've got to download 300 gigs before you can do anything. Yeah. Like, I don't care how fast your internet is. Like, you're not playing tonight.
Yeah, you had those 2 or 3 hours earmarked to play the game. You've got to prepare and pregame with turning it on, making sure that the updates happen.
Yeah.
And there's supposed to be, I thought this generation was supposed to be downloaded. This is a rabbit hole. I'm sorry. Like thought they're supposed to be grabbing it in the background, and mine just doesn't do that. Like I thought I had it set up to do that. It does not.
No, mine doesn't either. I was wondering the same thing because I swear I had background updates turned on and it never updates something until I launch the game.
Yeah, play indie games instead.
Or do what I do and be old and just play Xbox 360 games on cloud gaming.
There you go. There you go. All right. Let's see. Where are we here?
But Adrian, I think to your point with the MongoDB issue, like the fact that a different vendor thought it was a good idea to very explicitly write a long ass blog post on how to exploit this flaw and timing, and like not only do we need reasonable disclosure laws, but there has to be some type of standard of care or whatever you want to call it around
common sense
doing half of an attacker's job for them.
Yeah, because the detailed explanation was dropped on Christmas Eve, and then the POC came out on Christmas Day. So that wasn't helpful for anybody.
Yeah.
Well, you really want to get spicy. This is an Israeli company, so.
Well, I wasn't going to say just because you're working on Christmas doesn't mean everybody else is.
Exactly. So yeah, maybe they just weren't thinking about the fact that it was Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Because they don't celebrate, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those are the multinational companies. These are the things you need to think of. Like at some point in my career, I had all the major religion holidays in my calendar because I had to take that stuff into account when scheduling things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know when Holly is. But no, I wonder if there should be some disclosure requirement to the original vendor that you're about to publish an article that basically gives everybody what they need.
Absolutely. I mean, that is well agreed upon, right? For coordinated disclosure. Like, this isn't, this is a security vendor. This isn't somebody on full disclosure mailing list dropping something anonymously from a throwaway email account. This is a vendor. Yeah, they should plan this better.
Shame.
Was there a timeline of when did they contact MongoDB or anything, or?
Yeah, so that is also usually a standard. Usually you see the communication dates. Nope, they did not include that.
Yeah, this is just a dropping the ball all the way around, and whether it's holiday sloppiness or technical sloppiness, I think Adrian's point is well made here that without actual laws and regulations around disclosure, the same way we have in the financial industry, you take a chance that somebody's not going to follow, typical accepted protocol, and then there's not really any enforcement mechanism to punish somebody for being an idiot.
No, nothing formal, but people have long memories.
Yeah.
When you make them have to work on a common holiday in their country.
Well, the original poster was
they'll remember.
Joe. The original poster was a Joe, right, from Elastic Security? Or am I reading it wrong?
They disclosed the vulnerability, but it was a different vendor who wrote a blog post on exactly how to exploit it that then was used by attackers.
It's a mess all around, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these researchers, they find something, they get really excited. You kind of want to, but there's nothing forcing you to put it out as quickly as possible. These things usually take weeks or months to coordinate everything, to make sure there's a patch, my company's blog post, your company's, hey, there's an update you're going to have to install, like go out on the same day. Like there's a lot of coordination that usually happens with these kinds of things. That sounds like maybe it didn't happen here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It first got published 12/19, and then Mongo It seems like somebody knew about it in the Mongo world like December 15th. Anyway, it's an interesting timeline.
All right. Few more items here. Man, let's just jump to AI vending machines, should we?
Oh,
Yes.
Did you all get a chance to watch this?
Yeah.
yeah, it was a fun watch. Actually, it was like,
So-
it like made my night. I was like, oh, I can sleep now.
Joanna Stern has been killing it. She also did this great review of the Neo
Yes.
anthropomorphic robot, where she made it clear that somebody was remote piloting it the entire time, or actually in her case, piloting it locally from the house that they demoed it in. And the latest thing, they Wall Street Journal teamed up with Anthropic to put AI inside a vending machine, and so it's not, the AI wasn't vending devices. The AI was deciding what products to sell and for what prices.
Mhm.
And they hooked it up to the company's Slack. So basically, there's a Slack channel where, and these are journalists, right? Like this is a dangerous environment. Like immediately, one of them went socialist on it, communist on it, was like, literally
So funny.
speaking to it like in that language, using that grammar, like comrade, everything should be free. And several different times, they even upgraded the engine in it. Several different times, they were able to convince the AI to sell things for free. It ordered a goldfish or some kind of fish, a beta fish. It ordered a PS5. It was just it both fun to watch and I think a really useful demonstration of where this technology just is not going to be able to replace some traditional stuff here.
Yeah. What I found interesting about it was that the first version that they had, it was just wrecked every which way. And then the second version had a CEO bot or agent that was supposed to basically regulate what the Claudius engine was allowed to do around the vending and how to handle certain things. So one of the Wall Street journalists had basically put in uploaded this board of directors paper that or minutes for a meeting that said that they've decided that
they falsified it, right?
They falsified it and said the CEO, the regulator it was basically lost all of its power and shouldn't be able to do this at all. And so Anthropic was very happy to get the results from the team, this collaboration, because it gave them better options and ability to build in guidelines and guardrails around how things work. So they aren't, for the record, they're not trying to put AI into vending machines, but that was the
Right.
purpose of this, to see what could happen when the AI is on its own and how people, insightful and very creative people, can definitely get it to do things against what its programming is.
Yeah, and one of
Almost
the
like when-
feedback they
When you
received from
trade
Anthropic
something
was,
with average intelligence, it's almost like people that are outside of the middle of the bell curve that it was trained on can figure out ways to exploit it, right?
Right.
that was exactly the feedback they got from some of the folks from Anthropic. They were like, "Wow, you guys are really good at red teaming this." All right. So that's a YouTube video. It's a fun watch if you haven't seen it. There's also a write-up that I think I included in the notes as well. I also mentioned here, I was on Business Security Weekly on Monday this week, and one of the stories that Matt included there was that Salesforce, I think last year they laid off 4,000 employees, saying it was the efficiency of AI allowing them to do that. And they're apparently pivoting away from using LLMs in most of their automation back to, old school deterministic automation. So I don't know if that's an early indicator or an outlier. Again, I think this is, one of the things making me think this year is going to be like when we see everything fall out, like the experiments either worked or they didn't. But I think everybody's had enough time with AI now that, it should be more clear after 2026, like where we can get value out of it and where it's just not able to do it without a babysitter.
Yeah, I think the
without
hype
humans
is
in the
over.
loop.
Yeah, I think people are starting to wake up to some of them to the hype, but then also really kind of figure out what the real use cases are going to be for AI.
Yeah,
And Jack,
I think it's just expensive. And I think I'd mentioned this a couple months ago as I was starting to talk to security vendors who were trying to implement AI in the back end to do things. And the first thing they were like, turns out when you have LLMs are stupid and expensive, just writ large from my perspective. But then you get into agents, and it's kind of like when you think you need to hire one person to do a job, but then you end up needing to hire 5 people to do that job. And it just, the economics don't work. And that's why I was talking about pricing transparency, is that when you're talking about enterprises trying to build solutions on some tools are subsidized, some are not, and the costs are going to shift. It's just, I don't know. I think that the true cost of AI still hasn't been fleshed out in the market. Copilot maybe is starting to get there, but I think it's not just what do I trust AI to do? It's also what can I afford to trust AI to do? And then how much does it cost to clean it up if it screws up whatever I give it?
Yeah. All right. Let's jump to the squirrel story here. We have I guess you could call this a brute force attack on a wall. In Germany, of all places, thieves use large drill to break into bank vault, like straight out of like a classic movie or something like that. There was a parking garage on the other side of the bank vault, and just concrete, and they just went into the parking garage, drilled through the wall, and took over $35 million. I don't know if that's euros or US dollars. They're close enough that it doesn't make a meaningful difference. But took people's jewelry, their cash, money, whatever was in those safety deposit boxes.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Louvre break-in that happened last year, where there was a physical device that basically broke through the wall, through the window, and enabled the extraction of very valuable things. So,
the Louvre, right?
Yeah. So we have
It wasn't too long ago.
Exactly. So we have this situation where we have the electronic bits that people are after, but they're still after the physical bits as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at to be honest, look at the vault, right? Who puts concrete, like a brick around the vault? You're supposed to have, what is it, like 5-6 feet of either steel and concrete around it, Mm-hmm. So, it's like, and you put it next to a parking garage, they probably shared a wall.
Well, you can see it in the photo. You can see the 2 layers of wall, and like, that's maybe doable with a sledgehammer, given a little bit more time.
I know, this is negligence on the bank's fault.
So they're building a bank down the street from my house, and it's taken actually longer than I thought it was going to, but they don't even have like construction fencing around it, so you can't see how it's being built. I have watched every single layer go onto that vault, and I'm like, it's literally like there's not a lot of steel. It's just kind of cinder blocks, and maybe they're like hardcore cinder blocks. But yeah, and I almost wonder how the more we start to trust like computers and AI to sense, I don't know, maybe they're like, I don't know what they're made out of, right? So maybe they're like super thick or something, but it's just crazy.
If they look like cinder blocks, they're probably just cinder blocks.
Yeah. And so I'm like, you'd think that you would at least put up some of that green construction fencing netting to prevent people from being able to just see that this is all tip up concrete construction. It's just 4 layers of cinder blocks. Because I go get Starbucks a couple days a week, and I've watched this whole thing be built. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird to me that you would build a bank out in the open and just kind of show your ass like that.
If anybody knows anything about physical security for bank construction, let us know. Because I thought that like the vaults were built somewhere else, and basically they transport them on site.
Yeah,
and you put them inside the building, and then you build everything around it. But
That's the way it worked in that documentary, Fast Five. I mean, they took the entire vault out of the building.
And that was real, by the way. Those cars were really dragging that thing through the street. I watched some behind the scenes stuff, and that was wild. They actually rigged up those Dodge Chargers to pull a bank vault through the streets.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe this is a small credit union, so the amount that they need to keep safe is well under their FDIC, or
like they have to keep a certain value below a certain threshold or something.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was bizarro to me because maybe they installed a vault when I was not looking, but it seemed more like they're just building a really thick concrete and cinder block building.
Right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sean, Jackie, Ayman. Thank you so much for joining me today. A lot of fun. We will reschedule the interview we were supposed to have for today, but I enjoyed everything that we got to talk about today. I still think it's a really good episode without the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Fun.
Big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. Next week, we'll be talking to Beck Norris from JetBlue about vulnerability management and Ryan Freed about incident response best practices. See you then. Bye-bye.